Hi there, everyone. I'm Tyler. I'm playing with some wonderful people from the Gauntlet community, which you've seen me play a bunch of games with the Gauntlet community. You should go look them up. They're absolutely wonderful. Gauntlet-RPG.com. You can find us. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us all over the place. You should come look for us. We're awesome. We're playing the Big H, which is from the Gauntlet Codex fanzine, Codex Decay. And all the codex have wonderful games in them. I've been trying to go through a little series of them, and we're playing Big H, which is a little bit of a depressing game, but it has so much potential and so many neat things, and we've been exploring that. Where the Big H, which is the greatest hero the world has ever known, has been, this idol of many, has, for whatever reasons as we play, has decided to pretty much take over the world to keep people safe. And we'll describe ours here in just a moment. But the game is a bunch of heroes who are realizing that the Big H is out there and becoming more of a tyrant than a hero, and how they stand up to this. We have the Gauntlet inclusivity policy, which basically means that we're all here to have fun together. We're all friends. We're all trying to enjoy a game. And friends, when you play, that's what makes it fun, is being friends and having that social interaction. So that's, I think, a good feel of what the inclusivity policy means. We also have the X card on the table, which for those of you that know, and I know we went over it last time, if anything becomes problematic or is just really hurting your fun, please feel free to use it. There's no problem with it. We will all, as a group, just kind of pull back on that scene or whatever was causing that. May ask for clarification somewhere in there to do it, but we'll just pull it back, and we'll head back on into reframing the scene. There's no questions asked, though. Of course, anyone who feels like that, they'd like to say something or like to share something, we have our chat, we have our event, or we could say something here. Please, feel free to use these safety tools. They're here to make sure that we all have the best time possible. All right, I'm going to do a real quick last time on, and then we're going to meet our heroes. This is a GM-less game, which I don't facilitate a lot of those, and so you'll notice that I am usually sort of bossy, and I'm used to GMing. So I'm going to try and hold back from that impulse. You may all, if anyone watches this, see me struggle at that, but I'm going to try. But last time when we played, we came up with our version of Big H, and that is Safeguard, who is an alien robot that came to Earth, crashed to Earth, and this was 40, 50 years ago at least, and rose up and began protecting humanity. His ideals are that protecting the innocent, protector of the balance, in particular a galactic balance. He sees humanity and Earth as part of a greater universe. And so his views of the importance of Earth are tempered by this galactic view. He believes in the greater good. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And he also has a kind of globalistic view where he believes that the whole world should be one unit, and we should humanity should be one thing. And I'm going to give his powers, which we gave him gravitational powers, so that he can fly, and he can also be denser, and he can lift things. He has super genius, as he is an alien robot. He has super speed and reflexes. And he has a probably his most significant power, which is time manipulation, where we established that he has been going back throughout human history and sort of placing himself as this angelic figure. And we've seen some subtle manipulations of the time stream due to this. And also he has time invulnerability, which means that in a lot of cases, if you try and hit Safeguard, He will see it coming because he can see into the future, and he won't be there because he can move from the past. That has made him quite tough. And let's see, I believe those are his pretty much set up. If we could, why don't we all introduce our characters, and then maybe each of us give a little something we remember about Big H that I didn't cover here. Hello, kitty. Why don't I start off with Michael, and you can tell us about your hero and some significant things about Big H, or Safeguard.
All right, so I'm playing a stargazer, also known as the celestial astronomer, depending on who your translator is. His first name is Zhang Jiang, and he is a Chinese astronomer who, I believe we established in the mid-60s, actually gained his powers while working in a top secret lab that was aiming to make contact with alien races after. And the lab was established after Safeguard made its presence known on Earth, and in the process of that as yet not entirely defined accident, Stargazer gained star powers, generation, flight, some amount of superhuman durability, that sort of thing. And he's basically since his origin, I did place his origin a little earlier than most of the other heroes in our game have. He's been around a little longer, and that's basically the character. As far as Stargazer, what I recall is being established as one of the major events in this alternate timeline is the fact that Safeguard, having manipulated the time stream to place images of itself, embed images of itself and references to itself within the, I guess, the background and the revelations of the various global religions. It was able to take advantage of that manipulation of the past in order to help feed its influence over the modern globe. Since so many of religions of the world had been raised, had grown up with their faith having, I guess, basically versions of the Safeguard or similar concepts to the Safeguard incorporated, kind of like inserted into their dogma due to the manipulation of the time stream. And in fact, that came into the head to a head in the mid 80s when Safeguard actually was in the, I can't remember if it was in the 80s, it might have actually been in the late 70s, but when Safeguard actually managed to broker kind of I guess you could call it a truce, or at least some kind of union amongst all the major religions, to an agreement where they'd focus on, what their commonality instead of their differences. And that kind of like came to a head in the mid 80s when basically a supervillain group of all the I guess you could call them extremists from all religions and even non-religion. I think we established there's at least one atheist supervillain. Basically the ones who objected to this kind of globalization of religious faith. And of course, since this is a comic book genre, it always has to end up in a big supervillain fight, right? So that happened in the mid 80s, and that's been one of the, I guess, one of the hallmarks of our little superhero timeline here. So that's what I recall from last session.
Cool. All right, Patrick, tell us about your character and I guess a little something you remember about Safeguard.
So I'm playing Ghost Script. I had never given him a people name last time. So Petros Byrne, I think Peter he goes by. He's in New York, but acts as Ghost Script all over the world because he can project a sort of digital astral form, interact with electrical things, with computers, with data. He can go into a very like cyberpunk data realm where he can interact with very cliche constructs of computer systems and things like that. he's got the safeguard ideal of the good of the many and a personal ideal of the guilty don't deserve privacy. I think sort of as we develop more through it, he's very much a sort of avatar of like public online shaming and airing grievances for the entire world to tweet about and things like that. As far as Safeguard, I don't know. Did we talk about his sort of physical morphing, where whether it's something physical about him or whether it's something that he sort of that they inspire in people that are around them, that bug is not as reassuring as I think it wants to be.
Oh.
Just a very, very
reverse
calm
of my usual
assurance
like
from
myself.
I don't remember. I don't believe it. Anyways, he looks familiar to people that he's interacting with, whether he sort of takes on the physical traits of a group that's around him, or whether it ties into that, like he looks like beings out of various people's cultural and religious background, and that can sort of shift depending on who he's talking to or who he's in front of, and the sort of guessing like the visions and sort of light show effects that people get are different depending on their expectations almost.
Yeah, and that was super cool about him. Yeah, I thought that was neat. That the way we played with the time manipulation is super cool. That's neat. All right, Ryan, would you like to introduce your character and say a little something about Safeguard?
Yeah, so I'm playing Egris. My name is Megan McInnes. She's not important from a big company or something. She's just some kid and basically grew up in the Safeguard era and doesn't know anything about the time beforehand except in like school reports writing about the time before Safeguard unified the US and Russia and ended the Cold War preemptively and that kind of stuff, which is also a Safeguard fact. And yeah, she's about 20 years old now, like slightly above average, but not tall by any measure. Has kind of a lightly armored black and yellow costume, very athletic focused, dyed pink hair, creates portals a la Blink. And her Safeguard ideal is protecting the innocent, and personal ideal is, great responsibility, great power, that whole Spider-Man thing. Probably also somewhere in New York for the sake of team unity, but probably also a Spider-Man-y Queens type thing.
Excellent. And I'll remind us a little bit. We had another hero with us last time, but at least in the establishment of Big H with that hero, we saw that Big H had instituted a program of, like the Minority Report, precognitive law enforcement. And there were, of course, some groups that were quite upset about that because it seems to trot on a whole lot of civil liberties when you come up and say, I know you were going to commit this crime in a year, so I'm arresting you now. But we established that the Big H had put into place and over most of the world. We have sort of established that the Big H, while we still have governments, he's almost a guarantor of peace. So, he's starting the beginnings in what we're seeing so far of kind of superseding governments. I'll tell you my character. I have Bleed, who is, let's see, pull up the little character sheet for her real quick. Yes, Bleed, who is Lisa Mallow, sorry. And she's older. She's in her late 50s. She still goes around in her superhero garb on occasion because she thinks it's cool. But she kind of, I imagine her looking a lot like Raven from the Teen Titans, but she has a big cloak that covers her with a black bulletproof spandex set underneath it. But her big, huge cloak is all rainbow colored. And she is an empath. She is able to read thoughts and emotions. She's able to create links between people to where they have affection for her, and she's able to project her own emotions at masses. She was never particularly athletic, and she is much less so at nearing 60. But she, you know, she does get out there and hit the streets, and generally it's a low fight sort of style that she's always had, of just convincing people that what she thinks is right, and sneaking around to find the awful things. Her shared ideal with Safeguard is progressive globalism. She believes that the world governments are archaic and it's time for all of humanity to unite, which goes with her personal ideal of unity, that all humanity is one. And that is her particular ideal there. Anything else about her? We see that she was very much a devotee to what Safeguard was doing. We see her going out amongst the population over the Safeguard era and trying to promote that idea of unity, and that Safeguard's here to help us and protect us. And so I fear she's going to feel just terrible when we see Safeguards start to fall. All right, since we've done our introductions, and
I just wanted to say real quick, because I forgot to say in there, but Ghost Script is also on the younger end, like mid-20s. Also learned about a lot of Safeguard stuff from school.
Awesome. So our next bit is to go into Losing Their Way, which is a Big H scene. And when we do Big H scenes, each of us is going to narrate a scene, and in this case, where we consider that the Big H crossed a line, taking the ideals too far, twisting them, or doing something bad in pursuit of the ideals. It doesn't matter if everyone agrees that they crossed a line, so long as you think that. That can be both as a player and as a character, of what you think really was too far, where things are starting to go beyond the pale from Big H. Safeguard. And as I said, if we remember, just to go over them real quick so that we know these ideals: protecting the innocent, protector of the galactic balance, greater good, the idea of the needs of the many outweigh the few, and a globalistic view of the world becoming one big unit. All right. So we can ask if anyone would like to volunteer to go first. If not, I'm probably going to start with you, Michael, and we'll just go down the line.
Yeah, well, if I'm going to go first anyway, I might as well go ahead and volunteer. That way it could look like I am an enterprising player. So yes, so the Safeguard starts losing its way. So I think I'm envisioning a scene in which maybe we start to see how it can change the time stream in order to its favor in action. So let's say are we in the present day now? I know we've been kind of like going over the past several decades.
I think we're probably close in on contemporary time. Probably the 3-4 years coming up to where we have us actually going against him.
Okay. Well, in that case, we could say that it's starting to the Safeguard has been starting to introduce. It's kind of in earnest begun its plan to start preparing Earth for an incorporation into the Galactic Union, and it sees that even after its decades and all the good it's done on this planet, that the innate human resistance to the unknown is it's finding it's too hard to resist, to overcome its resistance. That people are, a lot of the old fears of Safeguard that it thought it had dealt with, neutralized in the 60s, are starting to come back even now. So it actually like goes back and like it exercises its time manipulation abilities, reaches back into the past, and actually starts, let's say, using its does it have electromagnetic powers? I know it had gravity manipulation, but maybe it's too much of a stretch to say it could like stunt those gravity controls in order to kind of affect more electromagnetic type of effects, like through like all kinds of hand wavy comic book science. In order to,
he's a super genius. He could do.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like, it can figure out a way. But it basically it's using energy and gravity and doing all that funky stuff to induce not necessarily hallucination, well, kind of like manipulating like the perceptions of various pivotal figures in human development and religious development in order to basically kind of induce recreate religious visions in them, or to simulate religious visions in them, so that the concept of alien races throughout in other galaxies is now like a mainstream belief in all the major religions, Judaism, Christianity, Buddhism, Islam, all through the line. So that at this point, people aren't so freaked out by the thought of aliens in other worlds. They're kind of like, oh, good. It's more like their attitude's more like, oh, good. It's finally time. Not like what the hell kind of reaction. So so I think I wanted to work into the narrative of the first concrete example of how Safeguard is tinkering with the human development in drastic ways in order to get whatever it wants whenever it meets resistance.
What do you think's a telltale sign that lets us know about it? Since we react to it, it's something we know. What do you think?
That we the players, or we the characters?
We the characters.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a good question. Let's review what the characters are aware of, because that's a tricky thing about time manipulation. We're all part of the time stream, so how can we be aware of that? Let's see. We've got procreation, digital ghosts. That's a good question. Maybe let's say Ghost Script has hacked into top secret files of someone who has a better ability to we also have an empath. No, let's go with my first gut instinct of that Ghost Script is kind of like hacked up evidence of a of this conspiracy, of like someone who's somehow able to detect and quantify the that kind of like temporal energy manipulation. Maybe the evidence doesn't point to exactly what happened, but just the fact that it exists, and that would be like the first clue that anyone would know that time travel is even a thing that's possible. So maybe that's the first hint that something awry is happening.
Okay. And we all have a chance for reactions to that scene, and it's based on that. We have some awareness that this is going on, and maybe, I don't know, Patrick, do you think you have like a first reaction? And maybe, did you tell people? Did you tell us? Because we will go into our next scene together as a group.
So, yeah, I do have a reaction that it's maybe spin it out a little further, but I sort of like this idea of Ghost Script, like he's getting these online hints of this mystery, that this hacker, this presence online, say the archivist, who he knows things that didn't happen, things that should have happened. He has different versions of history, and I think like Ghostscript, following these clues, it leads him further and further in until he finds this vault, this sort of museum locked up underground. That's like he manages to worm his way through all sorts of defenses and things to get his sort of digital presence there, and looking around inside of this place where there are like history books that are filled with weird lies and things that obviously didn't happen, and maps that are all wrong. Like there's a map that has the South American Union as all of these like weird disparate little countries that they haven't been for like going on 150 years or so. And there's maps that don't have any sort of indication of the Pacific Island nation, where it's all of these like little individual states and this Australia place, and it's all very confusing. But yeah, I think it's like this guy has managed to pull documents, truths, different versions of things that show that our world that we're in is actually, he's gone back and simplified things even more. Like he's gone back and tried to get rid of all these different national identities even further back in history, and make all of these sort of European Union type models across the world so that there are fewer people to convince and try and bring together. And I think it's just Ghostscript standing horrified and disembodied in the midst of all of this evidence, which doesn't make sense, but almost sort of does with some of the other rumors he's heard before.
Awesome. Ryan, do you have a reaction, you think? Do you... again, do we think that you told us that, Ghost?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't really gotten into how we started coming together, but once we did, I do think it'd be something that, like, once we trust each other and are a team, that would be a conspiracy theory that I'd bring up at some point.
Okay. So, Ryan, do you think you have a reaction with that potential?
Yeah. So at first, Megan's like, yeah, that's ridiculous. Where are you getting this from? I mean, you should stop, believing everything you see on Reddit. But it gets to her pretty quickly. She's going, but he was manipulating us all along, and is just clearly pretty rattled about the entire implication here that he's been rewriting history to suit himself.
Cool. And I think we see Bleed in that very typical time story sort of way, since Safeguard's from our timeline, but changing it up. I think that Bleed is starting to see and hear people that are supposed to be in our timeline, but aren't anymore. Like ghosts, and they're playing on her, and she will hear from them. And so when this rumor, when this comes from Ghostscript, I think we have a scene of her there, and she's just crying for what she's done all these years, thinking he's so marvelous, as she's putting together the thoughts of something is wrong, something has changed. All right, so Patrick, Big H scene.
That all sort of wrapped up and ate up what was my sort of proto Big H scene.
Got one or need a minute?
Yeah, I'll push on something that I did with my first scene last time, which is that where I talked before about his sort of cruise of storm and disaster fixers that would go into sort of temporal breach situations in the middle of these gigantic mega storms that were being caused by him maintaining the weather and the atmosphere a lot of the time, or these just unavoidable geological disasters that he and teams of specialists would go into and try and rewrite the possibilities in the future. I think now what we're seeing of them in the modern day is that Safeguard has been so clever. He's made these inventions, made these machines, made these detectors that can sense these sort of disasters coming, that can show people where to go to alter things, or what butterflies to kick the ass of so that they don't start hurricanes and things like that. But Safeguard himself isn't involved in those sort of efforts anymore. Like he's focused on more important things. He's made these devices so that people can carry on this work without him having to be there for every little disaster. But like, things would always go much smoother when Safeguard was there along with them. Even if you take other supers, it's not the same as having the power source there itself. And I think just as the sort of like mark in that change, we don't have all of these different ratings for like hurricane strengths and wind gauges and earthquake gauges and all these different things. Disasters are now just sort of labeled in the number of operators' lives that it'll take to deal with them, the number of agents that we'll have to spend so that the public doesn't have to deal with this problem. And that's just the sort of like, we're putting it out there that we're spending so many human lives to stop this event, sort of thing.
Awesome. Ryan, reaction from you?
Yeah, so I think Megan starts turning off weather alerts on her phone because she can't take it anymore, because he's just using people as resources instead of as people.
Awesome. Michael, for Stargazer?
Right. So I think he's been so busy, so overloaded and busy with the increased ecological crises, the increased climatology crises going on, that he hasn't spent as much time examining the case for conspiracy that Ghostscript has presented. So I think the strain you see is mostly him just really straining taking advantage of his starlight and flight powers to like be out all over the world, almost simultaneously practically. And that might be why he hasn't bought into the conspiracy as much, because he really hasn't taken the time to look over that, examine that stuff as closely as he perhaps should have because of that.
Okay. And I guess me a reaction, right? I think that we see Bleed as, she's really devoted herself to what Safeguard's doing, to the point where she goes and she gives emotional support to these strike teams, to these teams that go in to deal with this. And I think we see her with this guy. He's in his super outfit, but he's just crying and crying about how, it was my whole team. Why did I make it out? What did I do to deserve to live through this? I mean, sure, that volcano could have knocked out half of Sicily. But now I feel terrible. I mean, they're all gone. And we see Bleed, and she's crying there with him as she's feeling his pain. All right. Ryan, Big H.
Sorry, I had a couple different, oh no, his ideals could warp in terribly different ways. And let's see. Oh, so this might be a little cheaty, but back before Australia fell off the maps entirely, there was some configuration. I mean, Megan doesn't have clear details because it was covered up and everything, where he basically left Australia completely unprotected because there were things elsewhere in the multiverse that needed his attention. And there is not actually an island there anymore. But you wouldn't be able to tell now because he's kind of retroactively altered some of that stuff. Ghost Script has totally found evidence that there was an Australia once. I mean, there's all these things pointing toward it, but there's not even a landmass because that was an acceptable price for another planet somewhere else.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'll do my reaction of, gaining some information now that Ghost Script has started to share this. I think we see Bleed, and she's just finishing carving this long tube, and she leans over it and whoa, 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 whoa. And again, for the first time, there is a didgeridoo played on Earth. Michael, reaction? Oh, Patrick, reaction?
Yeah, I have a reaction to build off of that. I think that scene with the didgeridoo, it's actually taking place on a ship. We're out in the middle of the ocean, and to prove to hell names the bane of my existence, Egress. Yeah. I think this is like to prove to Egress and the astronomer these sort of claims, this insane claims about this Australia thing. I think we're out there in the middle of the ocean. I think we have this like map from a world that doesn't exist anymore, and we have Bleed there sort of channeling over the spirits and the psyches of the people that should have been there. And I think Egress manages to open a portal, manages to make some strange portal off of this didgeridoo music, and like we actually go to the Australia that what never was, and we meet people there, and we like see the reality of it. And I imagine come out changed, but certainly Ghost Script is like hardened to this is too much. This is too high of a price.
Ooh, that's cool. Ooh, that's really neat. Michael, a reaction for Stargazer?
I'm tempted to work in a scene where Stargazer comes to a senses where he realizes that we've just been robbed of the existence of like In Excess and Men at Work, but I don't. That's far too silly for for the tone we're going for here. Yeah, so yeah, this is fascinating. So yeah, we've discovered like this effectively this ghost continent, right? So this definitely yeah, he's basically having a now I'm just having a crisis of faith. I forgot to mention what my ideals, my character's ideals were earlier. The safeguard ideal is the intergalactic equilibrium. So he might not be quite as shocked about this as everyone else, because he's kind of bought into this ideal of like, there's more than just this planet at stake. But his first ideal is reason over faith, and I think I kind of have another reaction to a prior scene, almost like actually this might actually be a reaction to my own scene, which another is also a case of bending the rules. But one thing I realized that I forgot to mention in my recap was that I had established a kind of a conflict between my character and my character's parents. My character's parents were basically religious missionaries, Christian missionaries, in the time before Safeguard's arrival, and they ended up being like some of the strongest protagonists, whereas the Stargazer had in the previous timeline been raised to value reason over faith, and he didn't share the same faith that his parents did. It was more about science, particularly astronomy. But after the Safeguard went back and incorporated the existence of alien races into all of Earth's religious faiths, I guess he actually got Stargazer himself kind of got revised to a point where he was a person who was much more easily able to reconcile his the existence of religious faith and his focus on science, since now it had been changed to edited, as it were, to incorporate alien races with a more intergalactic perspective. But seeing once he's encountered with the faces of the people who were eliminated in Safeguard's schemes, maybe in order to make this even more personal, I don't know, maybe is it possible that Stargazer might have met? Didn't we establish they did not have a love interest in it? Did I establish a love interest, like maybe another one of the supers in the last session? Was that a thing that happened? Does that ring a bell with anyone? I don't know why I'm remembering this.
Sounds
now.
vaguely familiar, but I don't remember any details.
Well, let's say that superhero happened to be Australian, and he's actually meeting her for the first time in this new timeline.
Oh, I love it.
That might be what finally. That might be the final tipping point for Stargazer.
Oh, that's excellent. Oh, that's super cool. All right, so I suppose it's my Big H scene, the last one of our Big H scenes, and then next will be us as big bad heroes. I think that as we're getting close to that time, the takeover by Big H by Safeguard, they announce to the world that a massive asteroid is coming. And it is going to destroy the planet. And that it is necessary for all of the countries, all the people of Earth to come together. And that they will build a vessel that will be able to stop this. That will be able to blow up this asteroid. Will be able to protect the Earth. This will require sacrifices. Everyone must pull their weight. And so we see this program of just every country being stripped to produce this massive ship that Safeguard has dictated should be built, and we see that it's causing such want in the world. But of course, it's for the greater good. If we don't do this, the whole world will be destroyed. And as they finish this massive ship, the asteroid is seen up in the distance, and of course the ship moves up and blasts it out of the sky, and now we have this Earth ship that's out there. But below, people have suffered horribly to have had to have made this, and probably he had even said that countries that weren't, or peoples that weren't willing to help, wouldn't get the protections of Safeguard. And so by doing so, had pushed everyone into it. All right. Reactions? Ryan, do you have one, or should I start elsewhere?
Maybe loop back to me.
All right. Patrick, you got one?
Sure. I think, yeah, I think Ghostscript manages to catch something sort of in the process of happening. Like we've been clued into these temporal changes, into these rewrites in history, and I don't know if the archivist like gave me something or showed me something, but we started to look out for these changes now. And I think Ghostscript saw something going away online. Information, details and plans and photos of an installation high in the mountains in Russia somewhere that definitely doesn't exist now anymore. It stopped existing the morning of the successful blowing up of the asteroid. But he manages to grab them, and we look at them as a team. We call in resources. We try and figure out what these plans, what this installation was. And I think the sort of true dawning of horror comes when we determined that this was like a gravitational satellite beacon. It was something that reached out and called this asteroid in.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's perfect. Michael, reaction for Stargazer.
Yeah, I want to tag up on a couple of those things. First of all, I'd like to comic bookify this a little more, and let's make see. Well, how do you feel about making this this asteroid kind of a almost like a Galactus Ego, the living planet, kind of like sentient celestial entity?
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, maybe like maybe it's like a concentration of like just evil force collated from, like kind of coalesced from throughout the galaxy into one.
Okay, so he sent out like a signal that called to this thing.
That's right, yeah. And the reason he did it is because what if Safeguard's ultimate plan, the reason it was willing to, the way in which it was kind of like planning to like sacrifice Earth or use Earth for the galactic good was it wanted to, its ultimate goal was just the destruction of this asteroid, which for unless we have any other better names for it, I'm going to refer to as Apophis, which I think is like a Greek name for some kind of destruction god. Also, the name of an actual near-Earth object that flew by like a little bit ago. It was one of those ones that could have potentially like crashed into us, but fortunately it passed us up. But maybe it came to Earth because it knew it needed to. It wanted to use Earth to kind of like create the sources or like harness its superhumans in order to like, and use them in order to destroy Apophis for the good of the galaxy, even though it would like cause like, all kinds of mayhem and destruction or disruption amongst Earth. Like, I don't know if this is expanding things too much, but maybe it even like also manipulated the time stream to kind of like, kind of create a lot of the, the big mad science accidents and stuff that ends up creating superheroes and comic books. And all the mayhem and collateral damage that worked off of that was all part of this grand scheme in order to create the superhuman resources that it would then direct and aim towards this evil asteroid like a guided missile. And a lot of them might not have ended up surviving that as well. So yeah, I think that's not so much a reaction as an elaboration, but that's what I've got. So
cool.
And of course, in the wake of all the deprivation of all the superhumans that Earth has come to rely on for the past couple decades, of course, Safeguard's there to fill in the gaps and take on the burden, and which would eventually lead to its ability to consolidate its rule over Earth.
Excellent. Okay. And Ryan, do you have a reaction?
Yeah. And Megan, Egress, etc. So, I mean, as this is all coming out, it's just like it's not just the people that are resources to him, it's the entire planet. And she just disappears for a week or so, kind of holed up somewhere, can't cope at all, and then comes back a bit later, still kind of shaken.
Awesome. All right. Well, we're getting into the next phase, which for us will be heroes. And I'll read it out real quick. Your characters are established heroes who are on the same side. Anything from a loose alliance to a team like the Fantastic Four. So you can frame scenes together if you like. Threats should be more dangerous, like a gang of mundane villains, a team of supervillains, or a single powerful supervillain. We can, I think that probably the more fun might be having it do emergent of how tight a team we are, or have us. It sounds like we're pretty close if we're spreading dissension amongst ourselves against our all-powerful superhero. So we, at the very least, it sounds like are trusted friends. But we can kind of have our scenes bring in where we fight together, I think, unless folks would like to do it somehow differently. But we're each going to frame a scene with ourselves. We can ask other people to be in, and we ask a villain, which means that we all won't be in it. And then whoever framed the scene or initiated the scene gets to frame the opening, talk about it. If they have someone else with them, they can do talkie and do it together. And then the villain will put some problem in the way. We may have a roll or two, and then we'll come back out. So, any thoughts on that particular different, or should we just start with folks framing scenes? All right, sound like framing scenes. Anybody want to volunteer to frame a scene? Ooh.
I guess I can frame a scene. This related to the question I just posed in chat. We'd established in a prior scene that we had utilizing the portal creating abilities of Egress. Egress? It was Egress, right? Yes, to actually reach the asteroid, which had been eliminated from the time stream earlier, and having established that that Stargazer's former love interest was Australian, he would have been sorely tempted to risk the bounds of space-time balance in order to bring her back with them. And I guess would any of the characters have raised any objections to that? Would it have been considered too dangerous a move?
And what's her name?
Oh, that's the next thing. I had a list of character names, like superhero names, and I've misplaced it. So I guess I'm gonna have to come to something else on the fly. I'm thinking of now I'm starting to think strategically and think what superpowers are we going to need against Safeguard, which is a little cheaty, but
but that's also comic books that we found just the right person right now.
You're right, exactly.
That would be portal to Australia.
Right, exactly. It would be poetic justice, wouldn't it? Although I like the idea of us confronting Safeguard by Ghost Script hacking into it, because I think that would be hilarious. But we'll worry about that later. I think since we don't have any super strong people, let's just go ahead and we gotta have one super strong person in this universe still. So let's say that she's let's see, let's come up with the name. So I'll do what I do every time I need a name for a character. I look for a random generator online.
Waltzing Matilda.
It's tempting, but I'm gonna go with I don't know how much better these are. Let's keep going. Okay, one more and I'm gonna realize. I might need some help on this one.
Well, there's always you could do, let's see, Tasmanian Devil. She could be, if she's super tough, she could be power something. Any other cool suggestions? Down Under Annie.
You know what? Let's just call her. Let's just call her War Devil. How about that?
Ooh, I like that.
We'll go with that.
War Devil. All right. So you've brought someone back to our timeline from a lost place. I suppose anybody feel like or want to be in the scene? Do you want to invite someone into the scene? If we're going to have a scene with an NPC, they suggest someone else play the NPC.
It sounds like I need to be in here in some degree, given that I'm
absolutely
portaling to Australia.
Yeah, and I think Bleed could be helpful too.
Somebody's got to be the villain. Okay, so you two want me to be the villain, and you two are there, or is someone playing devil?
I like the idea. Well, I think Egress is definitely there.
Yeah.
And
I can play devil, or you can play devil if you want to have that person there, Patrick. Or you want to be villain?
I'm okay if you want to be villain. Go for it.
I'll be villain? Okay. And you want to play devil then?
If it comes up, sure.
Okay. All right then. So as we've brought devil back, so that sounds like you're you two should frame your scene and talk it up there, Michael, and then I'll throw an obstacle.
That was sort of his, that's the plan, is the villain interfering and
okay. Then yes, as you've come out of the portal with this love with devil, and we have Egress there, I think we see this sort of shimmery image appear in front as one of I like some sort of time demon anomaly. Something has escaped out and is warping the time around it. And it's the swirling of energy, and it's following through this portal and reaching out. How do you respond to that? And I suppose we would have a roll out of someone if we want to just get rid of it. But how do we respond, you two?
Well, I think I'm definitely using my star powers, just generating energy to counteract the paradox. Let's call it a paradox demon does own energy summoning. So I think I'm mostly trying to neutralize that while maybe creating a simultaneous light construct in order to grab for War Devil to latch onto.
Gotcha. What are you doing, Egress, while you're there?
I think just trying to hold open a portal to Nether Australia so we can shove this thing back in, maybe.
Awesome. Okay. Then I think you both should roll. I mean, that sounds like you're both doing things.
All right. Let's see what I've got here. Well, did you just roll, Egress?
Yeah, so I got a 5.
Oh, excellent. And I'm rolling, and I got a 2. Uh-oh. Well, let's see. I'm going to spend what I need to because this is War Devil after all.
Which token would you like to spend?
Yeah, how do I want to do it?
So might is the easy one. That's your using your powers. Inspiration would be inspiring someone else to help, and then righteousness would be skirting the line.
Oh, yeah. And again, my lines are, if my lines are intergalactic equilibrium, well, there's reason over faith, and there's nothing reasonable about creating someone who was written out of the time stream back into existence, right? So if anything, that could be the personal idea that I'm putting on the line in order to make this thing happen.
Okay.
So I guess this is one of those power of love sorts of resolutions, maybe.
And it definitely violates intergalactic equilibrium if bringing back your love also destroys the time stream. So
yeah. Let's try not to do that. So I'll go ahead and re-roll then.
All right.
Let's see what happens here. Yes, I have 6.
All right. Then I think the two of y'all will get to describe out what happens as you defeat the time spirit.
Well, I'm guessing this might be the pivotal event that finally turns the previously unshakable faith of Stargazer against Safeguard. So yeah, basically, envision. Okay, so there's the Paradox Demon. It's unleashing its energy to sever the link that Egress has opened up. I'm trying to. I'm kind of like I'm definitely straining my powers because I'm countering that energy with my own energy. I'm also trying to reach out to Wardevil, and I'm also trying to shield Egress from this energy storm that's been unleashed. And I guess almost like I think it just kind of has like on a personal level. I think his conflict culminates in him, I don't know, even like praying for strength to oppose the Safeguard, which had been like previously kind of cemented in his mind as an ally of Earth and his religion in particular and all this stuff, but just just kind of like reaching out almost to like the kind of person he was in the other timeline who would have been more skeptical of this sort of thing, and just channeling that thought in order to reach with himself and find the power to overcome these incredible challenges all at the same time.
Awesome. And Egress, I guess, narrate. Do you have a cool comic booky moment where y'all gained victory for you?
Yeah, so punching holes between timelines that no longer exist is not an easy sort of application for Icarus's thing. So she's just straining doing the I can't hold this much longer thing, and it's getting smaller and smaller and stuff as we manage to something back in, and it kind of blinks out of existence and so on, and she just collapses. But we have saved the day, at least somewhat. I mean, Australia still doesn't exist, but
that's fantastic. Oh god, that was good. Oh, that was so cool. All right, Patrick, we got a scene for you. Need a sec.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, I'll scoot over to Ryan then. Want to do your scene? And then you'll pick a villain, and if you want people in it with you. Or would y'all like for me to go?
how about you go? Okay. I say passing the buck.
All right, then. I'm going to set a scene then, and I don't know. We'll see if somebody wants to be part of it with me. I think that would probably be a cool idea. But I think that with the spaceship having been built and all the people having been so, all of the resources kind of being in short supply, and now that the ship's done, people are feeling like, okay, we can start having things for ourselves again. And that's doesn't end up being the case, that there's, still deprivations going on, and that I think that Safeguard's trying to make sure that things are spread equally so everybody's getting what they want, but that it means that there's a lot of discontent in a lot of places. And I believe that Bleed is dealing with let's say somewhere let's say St. Louis. That's always a good place for me. I like St. Louis. That there's a riot going on, and that the people have joined together, kind of to begin looting, and they're rallying against the government to say that, you know, we feel like we've given so much, it's time to get more, and that I'm out there trying to calm the people down. And even though I'm getting these doubts now, it seems like I still want to, you know, keep things from blowing up and lots of people dying. Anybody feel like they would be with me in that task of riot suppression?
Sure.
Okay. And so as we're, you know, trying to deal with this, and I'm extending my powers out, I'll look over at you, and, you know, I'm an old lady at this point, or getting close. Icarus, what? I understand their point.
Yeah, I mean, they're not wrong. We just need to make sure they don't hurt themselves or other people. And
They're so disillusioned. They're so unhappy. I feel almost like I'm lying to them when I tell them it's going to get better, but surely it's going to get better, isn't it?
I mean, it has to. I mean, we have to make it better somehow.
Who would like to be my villain? Our villain. Patrick?
I can do that.
All right. So I think we've set scene. Two conflicted heroes trying to stop a riot.
Yeah. So I think this riot, like it's worse than you'd sort of feared. It's harder to control than you would have hoped. And you eventually track it down to these like glowing LED like campaign pins. They have like slogans and stuff on them, but they're little buttons that people are wearing. And you link it together on all the people that seem to be most pushing the edges of turning this into a violent mob situation rather than a protest. And you manage to catch one of them and get that pin, and it's then that you feel a very familiar presence bleed. I don't think we gave him a name last time, but Firebrand, I think, is the presence that you feel here. That other empath who seems to have learned some new tricks in the passing time, come up with some technological devices that are boosting his power, and you start to feel this hidden web now, this linking of all of these minds, and you sense what he's sending out. He's not trying to control or even push these people. He's just blocking off a very small part of their minds. He's not allowing any of them to lie to themselves. And so when you have those questions in your mind of like, it's gonna get better, right? This can't be as bad as it is, sort of things, like the two of you don't find that voice inside of you saying, no, of course it's gonna be fine. You just feel this acceptance and this sort of spiraling that everyone else around you is feeling of this emotional vortex that's about to bubble over.
Oh, that's nasty. I suppose you think we should roll for that, huh?
I mean, if you're gonna resist, you could just join in the riot. I think it's interesting.
All right. Well, I think I'll try and roll against joining in the riot.
I'm gonna try to roll against, because if I fail, that will be entertaining. Yeah, that's a 2.
Do you wish to spend any tokens, or you wish to fail? I got a 5.
It's interesting either way, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yes, dear.
I don't have a might token to spend, and my ideals don't match really well.
Then you could have a fail, and the villain will get to describe what happens to you.
Yeah, sure, I'll just fail.
All right. Villain, should I go first with success, or do you want to do the fail?
Well, you're going to wrap it up, so I'll go first. I think Bleed, you had collected several of these pins to try and tap into this network and see what you could do to go against this this technological emotional threat that's going on. But you didn't realize the effect that the concentration of them would have on poor Egris there, who doesn't quite have the experience or mental shields that you do from working with this sort of thing. And so I think as you're like busily hunched down and reconfiguring circuits or tuning in psychically or whatever the fuck you do, I mean, how would you approach this problem? Would it be through the tech or through like psychic feels?
It would be psychic feels. I'd have all of these things here. This would give me the boost of it more coming at me, so I'd be tracking back through it.
So yeah, I think you're sort of trancing out, and you're not really sensing what's going on around you as you're diving into this psychic network, and you don't notice that Egris's eyes begin to glow that same like red of the LEDs, and I think stealing from this morning, I think the first thing that you sort of notice of something going wrong with Egris is a folding chair that gets smashed over your back as Egris has gone full professional wrestler on you to stop you from doing whatever you're doing there. And as part of all of this, you have to get into sort of a running portal battle with Egris as you're trying to catch her and get her still long enough that you can try and break this control before you move against Firebrand himself.
All right. As you know, I give an old like, oh, as I'm whacked in the back, but I turn and project out emotion, which we see Egris bouncing, and there's me chasing. Not very good at that. Young hero beats old lady with chair. Details at 11. But as this is going on inside, we have the thought bubbles in the comic book. As I'm connecting in with Firebrand, this isn't the way that you should be doing this. As I hear back, you have been fighting beside our enemy since the beginning. Well, I realize that something's not right. I realize you can't do this. These are innocent people. And as I'm, a fist comes out of a portal and punches me in the jaw. Oh, I fall. You can't. And I project out as you see the fluffy yellowy pinkness glowing from my cloak as I bring out my full empathic powers, and everyone sort of falls into that same sorrow and regret that I'm feeling. And everyone sort of stops the rioting as they're overwhelmed with, what have I done? Why have I made this horrible mistake? How have I failed in my life? And they're thinking, oh, what I've done here, but I'm definitely projecting, what have I done to prop up Safeguard all this time?
I think the visuals of this are like as you have this sort of revelation and your powers pulse out around you, like you see those same sort of pastel-y, rainbowy colors like blinking across those LED buttons as you wash out that evil, glowing, hateful red.
I like that. Maybe we even have Firebrand say, I will be talking sort of thing of he gets away. All right.
And
yeah.
Egress definitely like pops out of a portal like she's gonna come at you and just falls to her knees in a no regret pose. Background probably.
Oh, I think last panel we've got to be hugging and crying. All right. I want to go back and do something for Michael and then do something for me because we're supposed to have gotten tokens at the end of those scenes. So let's go back and do for Michael's scene while it's still fresh in our heads. Through the conditions, strike a blow against the villains or the Big H's government.
I feel like not really. This is more of a personal thing than anything else.
I mean, you did stop the world from being destroyed, but I kind of see where you're coming from there.
Yeah, I mean, the primary goal was the thing is the world was at risk because I disrupted the time stream by defying reality to bring back my war devils. So I was kind of like I saved the world from my own mistake. Is basically what happened. I don't know if I deserve a token for that.
You could kind of spin it that you're going against Big H because he destroyed Australia essentially, and you brought someone back from it. But it's how you want to spin it.
Yeah, I'm kind of inclined to not give it to Stargazer for that because this was he may have opposed the Big H or safeguard scheme, but it was kind of like almost like a happenstance side effect of his true mission, which was to like bring back his love. Yeah.
Show inspiring heroism or integrity in front of an onlooker, though. I think you definitely did that because we had Devil there, and you stood up for saving her.
Yeah, but I don't get a sense of that. I kind of interpret that as being showing it inspiring heroism in front of onlookers as I kind of think of onlookers as like the public at large, as opposed to like, my fellow heroes.
Okay.
At least to me, unless I made that big of an effect on Egress. That might be up to Egress.
Egress admired your dedication to saving one person when you can't save the whole world, because that's totally how she spits. So.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. If you guys think Stargazer should get it for that, then.
All right.
Tokens for everyone. Take a token.
Yeah, I have to say I'm hoping we're not being too lenient on this because as far as the token dishing out is concerned, because I don't know, that almost feels a little cheaty, but
yeah.
Well, whatever. This might be tough enough.
Tokens we have so far, I'm going. So are we gonna get to the end and everyone has one token, and we're like, well,
that's a good point. We haven't actually played this before. We could be like drastically behind on the count. So yeah, we'll just see what happens when we get to the end game, I guess.
Yeah, I think I feel like that was good. But stand up for your ideals or betray your ideals? Well, you betrayed your ideals, so you spent that one. Did it feel like you, in the end, did betray it?
Let's see. Again, just looking at the sheet again. Again, my ideas are intergalactic equilibrium and reason over faith. I think I inherently had to break my personal idea in order to pull this off, because this, as I had said before, there's nothing reasonable about this. This is all like heart and just over thinking this through rationally. And it was kind of arrogant of him to like risk the the continuum over because everyone's lost so many people had lost loved ones when Australia went out of existence. Why am I the one who gets to? But I did it because that's what he wanted to do. So I think of that as like a betraying of ideas.
Then if you didn't spend it for when you did the re-roll, then it would go away now.
Okay, so I traded one for another. I'll take that.
All right, for me, did I strike a blow against a villain or the Big H's government? Do we feel like Firebrand was a villain?
Definitely a villain.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's one. show inspiring heroism or integrity in front of onlooker or onlookers.
I'd say definitely, because
You're a whole crowd that you glowed in front of.
Yeah, thank you. And I think I did betray an ideal. I think that concept of the one world and the all of humanity being a part of this whole that Safeguard's been building, I broke down and knew it was false. And used that to change these people. What do y'all think?
I can see that being the price you had to pay for it.
Yeah.
Going up against Safeguard is bound to have a big emotional toll on us after all the time and energy we've put following its ideas. So that could just be part of the cost. I could see that.
Sound good for everybody? I agree with that too.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to do a little bit of switching around of my stuff. Next up to frame a scene, though. Patrick, do you feel up for your scene?
So I think part of Ghost Script's sort of populist, the importance of the many view, is that he spearheading an effort to set up a sort of long-term stable dark web. Like he knows of some hackers that are trying to get around these increasingly strict sort of governmental controls, especially on history and information and things like that seem to be sort of anachronistic sometimes. And so he wants to help with this setting up infrastructure to run a parallel sort of internet communications network on. I don't know if anyone would want to help and what sort of bad guy villainy would come of that.
I can come along if you'd like.
Sure.
Kind of the idea of I can help sell what you're trying to tell people, and be that person who has them open up to listening to you, sort of thing. Is that what were you saying? You were trying to spread this information out? Is that what you were saying?
No, I'm trying to set up like an alternate communication network, an alternate internet.
Oh, okay. Just kind of an underground, not really spreading information amongst them, just building up the communications web.
Sure.
Okay.
Is this the last of the hero scenes? Because am I the only one who hasn't played a villain yet? Or
Ryan hasn't gone yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
But feel free to play a villain.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay,
especially given that I've been in all the hero scenes because I keep tagging along with everybody.
Well, stop being so useful. Sure, I can come up with a villain for this scene. So we have Ghost Script setting up the beginnings of a darknet in this universe, and of course, darknet's is dark for a reason. So I'm thinking in the process of developing this infrastructure for a kind of secret internet, inevitably you're probably going to come up against all the other scum of the planet who are also either coming up with competing in darknets, or even doing or trying to co-opt what you're trying to develop. And I don't know, I kind of feel like a calling for a return of the Blastcom sentient virus from the last session, coming back in some sort of maybe like a new iteration, where it's almost like a I don't know. Let's see. I'm trying to think of what the take could be here. like almost.
Maybe.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
Oh, what were you going to say? I just want to see if maybe you'd spark.
I'm saying like maybe somebody's maybe even Big H, but this interim scenes of the Big H hasn't quite taken over, or difficult for me. But maybe someone is like using the Blastcom virus to do something. Like maybe someone saved it and has altered it and uses it now.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, channeling it as it were. Maybe an old villain of yours, or what if it was? Yeah, maybe it could even be like maybe the survivors of the gang that Onlooker was busting up in the last game session. Like maybe
The
one
Russians.
Yeah, like maybe one of them had survived the hit Onlooker breaking up the gang and had managed to create an empire of his own.
Nice. So I think my sort of like what I was imagining for Ghost Script's interaction with this stuff is like there's like one night when all these hackers need to run out and make some physical connections to get this thing set up all at once and hidden so that people can't see it going forward. And maybe in that process, that one night is when we run across that, oh shit, someone else has already set up these sort of hijackings and connections, and we run across Blastcom's network there. And I like the idea of Bleed being there and maybe going astral digital projection with me. So the two of us are sort of popping from site to site to try and look out for these hackers and now fight against Blast Tech and whatever's behind it.
That sounds cool.
Yeah.
All right. Does that sound like a roll? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. You rolling for script?
So I think I only have one choice. Yes, because I only have might tokens. So yeah, this is my powers where I think we were sort of looking at things from a holistic, like looking at all of the different nodes happening at once sort of look, and you were a bit mind melded with me. I think this is now when we go into the full-on, I suck you down into the information web, and we start blinking in and out and appearing as digital astral ghosts at these different sites, trying to counteract like little security measures being flipped and like electronic locks going off just before people need to get through the door or things like that. And so it's this flurry of spot fixing all over the world.
All right. I rolled a 3, by the way, as well.
Oh, you should not have done that. Well, I managed to knock that out of the park with a 4.
All right. And I'm trying to help, and I need to roll along with that, too. I think I'm going to do an inspiration. As I think as you're setting this up, Firebrand, and if you think it makes sense, maybe the Archivist are both going to be working with us. And it's us beginning to see that we're kind of becoming the villains, that we once fought for good reasons.
They're becoming the good guys, sort of.
That's what it is.
Helping us subvert governmental infrastructure.
No, really. Please do something. Yay.
Oh,
I got a 6. And I need to mark off an inspiration. Oh, no, I don't, because I succeeded. Inspiration doesn't go away if you succeed.
oh, nice.
I'll, if you'd like, I'll give my little bit, and then you can wrap it up. Sound good?
Sure.
I think then that, yeah, we have, the archivist. It makes sense is helping you through these things, and as it seems like everything's going to fail, that's when I sense that presence of Firebrand ahead of us, moving people out of the way so that we make sure that, these entrances and the guards are saying, oh, look, a pretty pebble, and looking down at pebbles, and but as I feel that presence, I hear Firebrand in my head. I've been waiting for you.
But yeah, I think through that we just managed to squeak out and get all the people past the areas they need to get past, and get everything in place so that when the appropriate midnight hits, because of course this plan ends at midnight wherever we are. When that clock hits, Ghost Script is in the digital space. You're there too, Bleed, and there is a giant power lever switch to be pulled sort of thing, and you see this. We had Firebrand there, so this sort of glowing orange light go out across the digital landscape, and all around the world, these different physical sites where we've been flashing to different hackers sneaking in and messing with wires and computers and stuff. We see a montage of scenes of them getting alert, pulling out their phone, and we just see that same sort of orange glow as a new screen pops up on each of their phones.
Cool. So let's go over your questions then.
Does anybody have a reaction scene?
Oh yeah, anybody reactions? Nope. All right. Looks like questions.
All right. Strike a blow against villains or the Big H's government.
I think so. I vote yes. I mean,
Someone's government, surely.
Yeah. Everybody else agree with that? Yes.
Show inspiring heroism or integrity in front of onlookers.
Do we feel like this whole black web? I mean, that's a lot of people you're showing stuff to. What do y'all think? What you think, Ryan? What you think, Michael?
I think you brought up a good point. I mean, the fight kind of was fought in the the proverbial cyber shadows, but the influx of information that's bound to be disseminated, I imagine, would be inspiring. So I'd give it up for that one.
Yeah. And I guess that's integrity, because truth over comfort.
I'm an inherently sort of antisocial, not very flashy hero, so I guess showing off for the other social misfits is going to be about my only chance to do it.
Excellent. And betray or
stand up or betray. I have the good of the many and the guilty don't get to hide.
I think it definitely stood up for the guilty don't get to hide idea.
Yeah, that's what I got from it too.
Cool.
Nice. All right. And then, Ryan, it's your turn, and then I think we'll take our break.
So, unlike all these really active Big H blows, Igris is back on her regular bullshit, except, on a slightly larger scale. Probably instead of trying to catch a purse snatcher, it's trying to, protect people after a bridge collapse, like the 35W falling into the Mississippi type thing, where she's, trying to port people out and try to keep rubble from hitting people, that kind of stuff, where she's very tied up, but it's just protecting regular people because Big H isn't going to do it. You can't trust him for this kind of thing anymore. So.
Who would you like to have as a villain? We've all villained before, haven't we, Michael? Yep, everybody's villained before.
Does anyone want to ruin my day?
Volunteer?
I feel kind of
I will certainly
picking someone to be bad. Okay, yeah, sure, Tyler, ruin everything.
All right. I think as you're putting your portals up and things are falling, and you're catching people and you're jumping around, I can see it being extremely exciting. When you notice that this bridge collapse is not simply bad construction and poor architecture, but in fact there is the Quaker, who is one of the original of the extremists. He has the power to shake the earth and your mind!
And sell oats.
And sell oats, indeed. And so you see the Quaker there at the bottom of the bridge, shaking it. He's got his big wide-brimmed hat. So I would say it's probably a roll, and then you could tell me how this goes against the Quaker.
So a 3 is a failure, right?
It is. Now you can, if you have any inspiration, you can roll it and bet that you're going to succeed. If you do, it comes back.
I'll do that. Except you got a 1, so nope.
You were attempting to do with your inspiration. You were trying to bring someone in, so you should describe out how you used an onlooker or another hero or something that you were bringing in.
So I can see this isn't going my way, and I'm not a big hitter. I need someone who can handle it. So I'm attempting to just, rather than text, please help me, because my hands are a bit full right now, just kind of pick up Stargazer and plop him in here, because he's a big gun and can occupy the Quaker. But this all goes terribly wrong. Maybe I accidentally portal like an office chair or something, or he shows up and just leaves. I don't know.
I can't imagine Stargazer leaving.
Yeah, I was leaving it open for the if you want to just leave me alone or whatever, or if you're not there, or my powers just don't work in that instant because I'm overstrained, whatever. Or Tyler can warp it as he likes, and instead I pull in some other jerk who wants to explode bridges.
Let's see, Michael. Unless you want to hop in, I have an awful for the 1.
Yeah, why don't you go for it?
Okay.
You still have your righteousness that you could try for another reroll.
Looking at how many tokens I need to have non-terrible things, though, I can't afford to spend more than I have. I must cling to my ideals.
All right. And so as you open up this portal, intending to bring in Stargazer, intending to bring in an ally, as it opens up, instead comes pouring out the 5-man group of one of Safeguard's crisis teams. And as they appear on the bridge, shaking, they look down at Quaker, and you see the leader of them pointing and says, "Try and turn the other cheek at this one, buddy," and just zap! Flings a bolt, and we see Quaker go, "Ah!" and just explode into 1,000 pieces. Taking away one more of the people that was not so fond of Big H. And as the cleanup crew does move around, one of them looks over and, "Don't worry, Egress. The professionals can handle this."
That did what I wanted in the way that I least wanted, so that's a perfect perversion of it.
So, your questions. strike a blow against the villain or the Big H's government?
I mean, a villain was struck, but not necessarily by me.
What do folks think, Patrick?
No, but I do think you get the second one. Kid, you get pity inspiration.
Michael, do you?
I go the other way. I'd say no to inspiration and yes to might, because you did. You're the one who brought the crisis team in, and you certainly struck a blow on against villainy in general.
I could see that. Technically, you are responsible for the save here, but you don't get any of the glory or recognition.
Yeah, I don't
know that too, and that I kind of called the first responders accidentally, and that saved the day. But that's not at all what I was intending.
Yeah, I think I agree with you guys. I think the might you get, but probably not that second one. Did you stand up for your ideals or betray them? Doesn't seem betrayal.
Even though it was on a meta level, I think you stood up for them because you refused to bend and do something that might put some people at harm in favor of saving others or stuff like that.
I don't have much, but I have my moral purity to cling to.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you get the righteous category too. I mean, you did what, even though it was, personally disappointing and embarrassing to you, you still did what you had to do to save the day. So, yeah, why not?
That sounds fair to me.
I wholeheartedly agree. All right. So everybody should have altered whatever tokens that they had. And what we're going to do next, and this would be where we want to look at the big chart there. We're going to decide before the next phase, just quick discussion, how Big H takes power over completely. Perhaps they did it by force. Maybe they were invited to lead after a crisis. Maybe they won the election. But we'll have a quick discussion about it, and then we'll have the Big H scene of tyranny, where we narrate scenes about how he has decisions that Big H has made as a ruler. And we'll do that after we come back. So why don't we take a 5-minute break and see y'all in just a few. This has been kind of cute.
We are bad at doing this fast.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. I was going to say we'll need to be mindful. We have 1 hour left. And I would like for us to get our money's worth with seeing how the tokens pay off at the end. But we'll have to be a little more pithy, perhaps. As I was saying, Michael, we're in this last hour, and I do want us to try and see the big payoff with the tokens at the end, to see how the story wraps up. But so we need to all be mindful, I guess, of the clock. I'll try and not be chatty and push right on through some of these scenes. We only have, like I say, we'll do setup, then we'll have the Big H scenes, and then we'll have our scenes, and then we calculate how awful things went.
Yeah, very curious to see how the system plays out in the end game.
So what are we thinking? Ryan will be here with us, but we could start having the quick discussion. What do we think Big H took over? How do we think Safeguard convinced the world? There's Ryan. Ryan, I was saying that we're in the last hour, so we should be mindful so we can try and hit that end. We'll try and be as pithy. I will try not to talk much, though clearly I'm not succeeding. So yeah, how do we think the government, how do we think Big H took over?
Well, let's think about what happened in the last two scenes. We had the Evo asteroid approaching, and we had a major depletion of Earth's resources, especially superhuman resources, to face off against it. We had a superhero population that's been like really heavily emotionally taxed just from dealing with the Earth, with the kind of like the afterpangs of the Earth suffering. Now, if I remember correctly, is it that all those ecological crises, was that kind of a side effect of manipulating the time stream? Was that where that all started, or? Okay.
Yeah, Safeguard causes global warming. It's true now.
Right.
And we're seeing some unrest amongst the population here and there.
Yep.
So, well, do we think that Safeguard, because of these crises, said, I'm going to assume control and did it by just intimidation? Or do you think the people went, oh, Safeguard, help me, please?
I think people voted him into power. I think he had managed to condense things down to a simplified enough, like there was a board of people who could elect him to dictator, basically.
What do you think, Ryan?
I'm imagining a more powerful UN thing just going, we need to appoint Safeguard, protector over the planet, because he's the only one who can do it.
All right. That sounds good. I like that idea too.
Yeah. And I think part of it might be that now that the Eva asteroid's been taken care of, maybe Safeguard realizes it doesn't need the other superheroes anymore, and maybe he consolidates power by turning Earth against what's left of the superhuman community, sort of thing.
Ooh, that's a pretty cool idea. So there's more. I would probably rather like he's not straight outlawed us, but it's become a real social pressure. One of these things of, being a superhero is to be looked down on, and they're just causing more trouble than they solve, sort of thing. How's folks like that? Seem good? Okay. So he's taking control because the United Nations of the world voted him in as Lord Protector, and now he's instituting the things that he thinks Earth needs. And so we're going to be doing the tyranny section. So each of us will narrate a scene about decisions Big H has taken as a ruler. Maybe we'll see the Big H in the scene, maybe not. Show the consequences of the decision. Again, it should be that breaks, twists, or overextends their ideals. And I feel like I start a lot. So would someone else like to start? And again, let's try to keep pithy.
I have an idea that might guide things sort of forward. We'll see if people like it. So I think this is a scene actually on the bridge of the big giant ship up in orbit around Earth. I think it's Safeguard, and I think it's a scientist, an inventor who's helped him build a thing. And I think he's explaining very calmly and very rationally to this man why he had to build the array that summoned in the cosmic force that came in and tried to hit the Earth before. That he needed a big enough threat, an existential crisis that would cause humanity to come together and deplete themselves to build this ship, because every other model that he'd come across or that he'd come up with had them not building these sort of intergalactic world ships for centuries more. And the cosmos, Safeguard has looked into the potentials. He's done the math to see the futures, and the cosmos is coming to great troubles that it will not be able to navigate and get through without Safeguard there to lead it. And he can't be stuck on this backwards nothing. So that's why he had to summon the cosmic force to force humanity to build this ship. And that's why he needed the scientist's help to build an array to summon the next one, because we won't be stopping the next one. The next one's got to take out the planets, so they have nothing left but to go forth and look for the other civilizations that can get me to where I need to be, so that I can save the entirety of the cosmos. And it's one of those villain scenes where, of course, he calmly reaches into a portal at the end of it and just undoes this guy's existence, having poured out his whole plan to him.
I have a reaction. That son of a bitch! I imagine through our dark web, we somehow managed to get the like spotty, staticky image from the bridge as we're sitting there, and we see Bleed look around. He has to be stopped.
Well, I like as a link, like that scientist right before Safeguard reaches through and a portal and sort of undoes him. Like you see that he's dropped something that's blinking there on the ground. It's actually one of those LED pins. It's glowing with a little recorder, and that's what we're seeing through.
Oh, that's awesome. That was my reaction. Ryan, you got a reaction?
I think we see, or maybe the camera sees, Egress start to move a little, like she's going to try to portal him out of the way at the last minute, and just stops because she can't tell Safeguard where they are and that they're watching, and that would ruin everything.
Oh, that's lovely. Michael, something for Stargazer?
I don't have a good word right now, except to maybe just say that Stargazer is probably just dealing with just like even more increased unrest. Almost like the humanity as a whole is just tired of like having with these non-ending crises. You know, both the Earth-based ones and the stuff coming from above. Just kind of a he's like seeing firsthand the wear and tear on human society as a whole.
Cool. All right. Next person with a big H scene. Anybody got one?
Okay, I think I've got something that the big H could be doing. Given that he kind of like starts he kind of puts forth the idea through all his, like, at this point I'm sure he's got like a whole slew of pawns and people who are, you know, like sycophants who buy into his vision so much that they're willing to spread his viewpoints throughout society, no matter how crazy they may sound or harmful. And I think he starts putting out the idea that this might just be the last generation of humanity. humanity might have just put too much of a toll on this planet because of all these, crazy supervillains and superheroes running around and unleashing all kinds of crazy energies and, just stress on society. And that this may be that at this point, Earth as a whole might just need to start thinking about like a dignified sundown to its existence as a species. And maybe he starts doing that by like putting forth the idea that maybe it's time to just like that maybe it may eventually just put up forth the idea that like the chosen few, like the people, those who are best able to survive or in the intergalactic community may eventually make it off the planet, and then everyone else maybe just start thinking about just having a nice quiet retirement and forget about like the idea that Earth's going to continue much longer as an actual civilization sort of thing.
That's so dastardly terrible. I don't think I have a reaction. I think that's just horrible on its own. Ryan, Egress have a reaction to that?
That son of a bitch. No, probably not a clear one.
Patrick, something for Ghost Script.
No, I think this is all just like, these revelations are horrible. I'm sort of in awe and waiting for the what is the plan gonna be? Like, what is his final blow for Earth?
All right. Ryan, you want to do yours, or shall I do my Big H?
Do you already have a Big H idea? Because that is a disturbing smile. Then go for it.
All right. I think we see again up in the great big ship, and I like the idea. It's a huge ship. It is capable of taking, perhaps hundreds of thousands of people. But on a planet of billions, that's really very small. But an enormous ship. And I think we see him clank, 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 moving through the ship. Those enormous wings of the traditional sort of angel, only they're more like energy wings floating around him. His eyes shining with the lights blinking off. As all around there are these pods where we see superheroes being kept. We could see tubes being put into them as he's pulling out their genetic material so he can breed his perfect super soldiers to fight the conflict ahead.
Can I suggest one little twist there?
Sweetly.
I think these people, like, these are the supers and the heroes that we've had flashes and stuff on camera of the various and sundry, like, Storm Chaser funerals. These are all of the heroes and leaders and whatever that have been dying tragically in all of these natural disasters.
Oh, that's lovely. Do you have a reaction to that, Ghost Script?
I think that's sort of what it is, that now we're into the ship's computers and we're managing to go through some of these files, and we have this shot of this experiment room, and I'm just bringing up these, like, zoom in and enhance, sort of, but bringing up these perfect headshots of people, and then putting them next to the, like, newspaper headlines, and Safeguard there giving the like speech at the funerals for these fallen heroes over and over and over again.
Oh, that's awesome. Ryan, does Egress have a reaction?
Yeah, kinda. I think that as Egress is probably standing over Ghost Script's shoulder watching these, enhance some more. Yes, I think. She's not expressing much. She probably has like some safety goggles or something reporting around, but you can see her fist just kind of like clench onto the back of his chair because no, this is beyond the pale, even though he's been beyond the pale for a long, long time.
And Michael, something from Stargazer as a reaction?
Nothing. Again, nothing I can really think of. right now.
right.
So
Cool. Wow. All right, then. I think our last Big H, Ryan.
Yeah, so again, on this ship, you hear the Big H narrating possibly just to the row of pods or something that he appreciates their service and always did stand for protecting the innocent and the good of the many. And Earth isn't either of those anymore. And yeah, keep telling people that there's going to be some sort of sunset and maybe some small evacuation. It's keeping them calm enough, but no, they were always just kind of a pawn in his greater plans. The entire population of Earth is going to be expendable to him.
Oh, Patrick, you got a reaction to that for Ghost Script?
No. That sits with what it is.
Michael, do you have a reaction to
that? Not really. I just want to get into the big fight more than anything else.
I do think I have this reaction we see from Bleed as this sort of, because it sounds like he's sort of announcing this, right? I mean, he's letting folks know that sorry, your planet's doomed.
Oh no, I was thinking in just a private moment, not talking to anybody particular, just sort of like talking to the pods of heroes he's taking the genetic stuff.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Indulging a human affectation of talking to themselves as they work.
Gotcha. Then
I do have something I could tag onto it. Can we say that? Can we say that Onlooker is one of the heroes, the pod heroes?
Oh gosh. Yes. Oh gosh, yes.
That's good.
And yeah, I do want my reaction then is you see Bleed sitting there and this perspiration just pouring off of her as she's trying so desperately to feel those people up on the ship and can't feel them. All right. Well, we finished that Big H, and boy, he's a dick. So now we're going to get into our final bit, the resistance. Show your characters as part of the resistance to the Big H government. Threats should be armed security forces or super villains / heroes. The line is blurry at this point. Who are working for the Big H, but it shouldn't be the Big H themselves yet. So we should be seeing minions thereof, not Big H yet. That'll be when we spend our tokens at the end and describe out our epilogue for the story. So, who would like to do theirs first? Volunteers? I can go first if people don't want to go, but that does mean that you will all have to go after that.
I can go.
Go right ahead.
Okay, so as part of the resistance thing, I think Igris, probably with some assistance of other people who want to assist, is planning to extend her powers again in a way that's going to strain her a lot and try to portal onto the ship when Big H is not around and release some of the heroes so they can bring back either them alive or their bodies or something to go look, these people didn't die. They were just on a ship having their DNA drained and so on.
Oh, that's a cool scene. Who do you want as a villain, or does anybody want to volunteer for that one?
I think I know the villain for that. It's as you get into that big cryo lab with all of the pods and everything, and sort of altars that people are laid out on in tubes and everything. I think you start you're at one of the computer terminals. You start unhooking the different systems and finding ways to wake up a swath of them, or you'd start with Onlooker. I think you'd go and you'd start with Onlooker, and as you're there trying to figure out how to free him and wake him up, behind you there's rows of like green glowing eyes that open up on these heroes in some of the other pods and around you as the security system in this area starts to activate, and these heroes with sort of nano controls in them start to wake up to get the intruder, cleanse this place.
Awesome.
Sounds
So I'm
like
not going to
a
be
roll.
trying to fight them all off so much as like try to stay out of their reach while I also free Onlooker.
And maybe free them or fight them all off. Who knows?
And that's a 6, so I accomplished my task for once. Ha!
Whoa.
Nice. So tell us how it looks. What does your success look like?
So if anyone was watching, although maybe Ghost Grip was watching back in his room because he watches whatever he wants, this would look really
I think
awesome.
at this point, as we're into like the active resistance and we have this ghost net, alternate internet, like I think there's lots of streaming, and Ghost Script is trying to constantly get things live out to the resistance.
Okay, then a lot of people can see that it looks really cool because Agris is just like porting back and forth across the room, making sure that these are like chasing her, and then they end up in Lake Superior or something, just really overextending her powers, and manages to get Onlooker out and kind of gives up on getting the rest. It's just you see she pulling Onlooker through a portal and she's gone.
Oh, fuck yeah, that was good. Bravo. All right. Anyone have a reaction to that other than yell?
I think as a reaction, since Ghost Script is there sort of sharing this and spreading out to this resistance network, as these various controlled, subverted heroes come like falling out of portals into backwoods Indiana and the middle of nowhere Wales and some island off in the middle of a sea somewhere. I think there are GPS pins going down on these places for various different people from the resistance to try and get to them, to try and help them, to try and figure out ways to deprogram them or at least keep them from hurting people or stuff like that.
Cool. All right. Who feels like doing their next scene? Michael, you feel ready?
I have a scene, but I'm not sure what the best time to schedule would be. I envision a scene where basically Stargazers, kind of like leading the final assault onto the spaceship. Since I've got the star powers, I'm probably the best equipped to do that sort of thing.
Keep in mind that big final assault, at least when we're going to try and take down Big H, will be after this set of scenes. That's going to be our token work.
All
We
right.
need to assign tokens and stuff.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
We need to assign you tokens. I am so sorry.
Did we assign you to? Or wait, again first. Okay.
Yeah, you went first. So let's assign your tokens quickly. Strike a blow against villains or Big H's government. Oh yeah, I think so. Everybody agree? All right. Show inspiring heroes of integrity in front of onlookers. I think because of Ghost Script, that certainly happened.
Yay.
The question then, ideals, did you betray? Because our ideals have, they've been subtly had to change. So what do you feel with your ideals on this one?
I don't feel like I really looped in my ideals much at all, because this wasn't with great power comes great responsibility or protecting the innocent. It was just I'm getting somebody out so I can prove the stuff.
I would argue for the great power and great responsibility, just for like having the ability to and following through with going on a solo mission into the middle of Safeguard's ship into what we know is his secret guarded lab, like taking the opportunity for yourself and doing it.
True, that's fair.
I can get into
And
that.
I can use more tokens, so I will take it.
All right.
Yeah, I think those are all good calls.
Seems fair. All right.
And I think I am ready for my
All right.
scene. I think what I'll do in the lead up to the final conflict will be I think at this point, now that we're in full on open rebellion mode, I think Stargazers just basically releasing messages around the world of publicly denouncing the the Safeguard as someone who just came here to exploit our resources. Try to craft a message that would appeal to a lot of the global population, basically calling this kind of like the ultimate form of colonialism on a galactic scale. Also being the elder superhero here, one of the first of Safeguard's followers. You can't he'd be the person who'd be most resistant to the propaganda that the heroes are all these new heroes are just a bunch of messed up freaks and irresponsible dangerous maniacs, since he was around he's been around since the beginning of the heroic age. So I think that's what he's doing. And if anyone has a villain to counter that action,
who would like to villain? Ryan, you want to villain that one or me?
How about you go for it? Because I don't have a right off the top of my head idea.
Okay. I don't think this is going to be like a villain fight. I think this is that ingrained where he's built up this enormous fortifications of the belief system. He's made himself the figure of so much of the religion that there is the fight against as you're spreading this around. And of course, every organized religion is saying this is foolish. We're going through a hardship, but he's come and he's shown us that soon it'll all be over. All the suffering will end. So I think I'll roll to see how well you convince.
Sure. Here we go. And rolling. Well, did I roll another? See, this is my one problem with Roll for Party. When I roll the same number again, I don't know if that was like a misfire or if I actually did roll another 6.
Drop you a new die in if you want to.
Okay. And I guess whatever number this comes up with will be the new die.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make this one orange so we'll know which one it is.
Cool.
And oh, that was a mistake.
All right. Wish to spend a reroll.
Yeah, we could do this. How can a bystander? Okay, so let's bring in let's go for the inspiration take and try to bring in a new person. I'm tempted to bring in War Devil. Yeah, let's bring in War Devil because she's an example of someone from like a direct victim of what Safeguard which Safeguard has messed up everything, messed up reality. So yeah, we'll say that she presents the case that that she's an example of the content that was lost, and this would be where we're maybe the best evidence we have that yes, there has been times through manipulation, and maybe he releases all kinds of scientific data documenting the residual signatures in reality that indicate that there's some sort of rewriting. And let's hope that she can make the case for make a convincing case for this crazy proposition. So I can go ahead and institute a reroll with that.
You can.
Okay, I'm going to roll the original red die.
All right, feel free.
Let's hope it's not another 6 because I'll just.
I hope it's another 6.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me! All right, well, okay, so I rolled a 1. All right, it's not over yet. There's any number of things we can do. I can betray an idea, or I can just spend the token. Let's see, what ideas can I betray? Well, I could either do intergalactic equilibrium, or what if I betray the reason over faith thing and try to make this like a religious movement thing, almost like I'm declaring myself the leader of a new church against the start.
Right. Maybe even bringing out the original texts. Showing.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, I could even venture into almost on the verge of religious fanatic dangers myself, just in trying to undo this mess. So yeah, we'll just say I do that. That I just forget this whole reason over faith thing. If I can't reason with people, I'll just use the power of faith for good and ill, probably at this point, to try to move the populations. So I'm gonna try one more time to reroll the red die, and let's see what happens. That's what we want to see.
That's
what it's all. Okay. Right. Yeah.
How does it describe it out?
Well, I think so. Let's see. I presented all. I tried to present the reason package, and I collated all our evidence and made the case, and people didn't buy it, and then I had Wardell help me out, and even that didn't work, and I said, okay, you know what? Yeah, yeah, I kind of like, yeah, I almost wonder if he like through sheer charisma, maybe he like either maybe he actually has one, or in the depths of his manic fervor to save Earth, or maybe he fakes it. Who knows? It may be ambiguous, but he actually starts claiming to have visions of his own. And of course, it's helpful when you actually have illusion power, like hologram powers, right? You could actually just produce. Maybe he starts producing images of maybe like images of like the true God, or actually like old school, what we know of as biblical
angels on high.
Yeah, exactly. And he never quite says whether this is actually happening or something he's producing himself. But yeah, maybe that's what it takes. And that's what I think. That's what the victory looks like.
And that seems like a beautiful betrayal of the ideals from the person we started with. I mean, this seems like an amazing journey to this betrayal to start galvanizing people against it. I think that's really kind of cool.
Yeah, because he already failed twice. He was really up against the proverbial wall.
All right,
and failed badly. There was like ones and stuff. So anyway, yeah.
So mark off the die that you used there. I believe an inspiration and a betrayal. Any reactions off of this? The return of the old gods.
That's a lot of dice.
The righteousness doesn't come off yet, but almost certainly.
Okay.
I
took off the inspiration.
Okay. So if no reactions,
I think there's just this when we see the unfolding of Shonra's plan there, I think there's just this like spark of an idea, this sort of recognition in Ghost Script's eyes that like this may not be entirely terrible. There may be other ways to use this too.
Gotcha. It's kind of a moment. Excellent. All right, well, let's do our questions quick. Strike a blow against the villains or the Big H's government. I vote yeah. Does that seem like everybody agree with that one?
Mm-hmm.
All right. The show inspiring heroism and integrity in front of onlookers. Pretty much everybody got to see that and get converted.
Yeah.
So agree on that one. All right. Like I said before, I really felt like this was a beautiful betrayal. Now, so that would be a loss. Do you feel like you hit your other one? No. Okay. So there's our set for that. Who has not gone? Is it me and you, Ryan?
I haven't.
No, me and you.
I already did mine.
I have an idea.
Cool. Go ahead.
So I think we've had these various heroes that fell through portals into lakes and different places, and they got picked up by the resistance. And I think there's just like, an underground bunker full of them. Their eyes are glowing green. They're like banging against the power restraint cages that we have them in, and we haven't figured a way to bust through this reprogramming without being on the central controls on the ship itself. Which means that Safeguard still has this big army of heroes that he could wake up and send at us. Which means that we need an army of our own. And while this Earth in particular has been depleted of its heroes, there's so many loop around in sort of cul-de-sac dimensions that have been plundered and pushed aside by Safeguard's rise to power. And so I think this really is a sort of group scene of like Egress there opening portals and being fueled by celestial power from the astronomer, and like Firebrand and Bleed there together reaching across the dimensions to hone in on people and using artifacts and things, maps and stuff from the Archivist, like our own Resistance League here, all brought together for this.
Awesome. Anybody? You gonna? I don't think Michael's been a villain in this one, though it sounds like it has kind of its own innate problem. But Michael, villainy. What would you like to obstacle this with?
Yeah. I'm trying to. I was trying to. I'm not coming up with any immediate villain ideas now. Is this the last of? Is this the last scene before Endgame?
I have one
more.
Okay. So if I remember correctly, yeah. So Ghost Script is basically proposing creating our own like army of supers from all the kind of like a bit. So are you talking when you mentioned cul-de-sacs? Are you talking about like all the maybe like like our Earth's like version of like Atlantis and stuff, like all those like secret society superhero tropes that you?
As well as like the timelines that Safeguard has cut off, and the like people that never were because of things that he reached back and changed and things like that.
Okay,
like Red Scare, the height of the '80s Soviet supervillain that never got to exist because they were at peace.
Yeah, I think about even like, are we trying to actually like bring back Australia? Like, are we? Is that what we're doing, or is it something as ambitious as that, or just like the various echoes of people who've been written out of the timeline, that sort of thing?
I mean that could be a cool way to do it. Bring back this lost continent of lost people from across all different sorts of time streams.
Okay.
We are in the end phases, heights of power. Why the fuck not?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's say I think the villain of this piece would be the I guess whoever is in control of those Paradox demons that we saw earlier when Stargazer rescued when we brought back War Devil from out of non-existence.
Gotcha.
So let's say what's a good let's call it let's call it for lack of a better idea, unless someone comes up with a better idea for name, let's just start calling this person I'm tempted to go with Tempora, but then I'm thinking of like Tempura. So let's say Ben Tempora. I'm thinking
also cooks very well. I mean, it works for me.
Oh, let's just call it Temporis for now. Well, yeah, and wearing anything else.
Nice.
It's kind of like the embodiment of the time, the kind of like maybe the personification of timeline integrity sort of thing. And it's just this like epic galactic scale entity, like something that would dwarf even Safeguard. But the question is moving it to, so in a way, this might even be a greater challenge. But and it just basically has like maybe it can unleash like a whole bunch of those Paradox demons with their own massive energy powers in order to prevent you from doing what you're doing. Ghost Script.
Sounds like a roll.
Yeah. It's basically it's like the kind of the cosmic equivalent of scratching. A wound can't heal if you keep scratching it all the time. So yeah, let's see what happens.
I got a 1 is what happens.
Oh.
So let's see. I'll try the inspiration first. Whose attention could we get in this?
I
just called in all of our people.
Yeah. Would you like suggestions for ideas? Because I just thought of something that could happen.
Yeah, hit me.
Okay, so War Devil is kind of like an anomaly who's been on Earth for a while, and because of that, she may have her just very form of existence may have like some pivotal role to play in helping you out here. Either where you could present her as proof that, look, it's possible for, you know, for this timeline. That this timeline is stronger than even you anticipate. And here's a little bit of paradox that's been running around, and the Earth hasn't fallen apart quite yet. And given that what's at stake, maybe it can bear a little more damage for the greater good.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I think in our arguments and this sort of godlike being looking down on us, judging the group of us as like you all have your own selfish reasons, you've all betrayed your ideals at different times. If you're worthy, and then War Devil comes like flying down into the middle of it, and as a hero that came out of nothingness that should not have existed in this world, like she's almost pure goodness added into this world. Her existence was not, and now it is, and the world is demonstrably better for it. And so I think that's maybe what convinces him that idea that you know, things can be rebalanced this way.
Let's see if he agrees. He does, sort of.
Hey!
Yeah, it was a close argument, but I won that fiddle contest and got a 4.
So, want to describe it out quickly? Does he go, okay, or does he just take off?
I think it's probably with a sort of threatening statement about how when this is all passed that you know, forces will have to be redressed, and these brief candles will have to be looked at again then.
All right. Awesome. All right, I'm going to do mine. So, we see...
Oh, wait. How about the points thing?
Oh, yes, your points. I'm so sorry. So, Patrick, striking a blow against the villains or the Big H's government? Oh, I think we definitely had a huge...
Got a whole flood of multi-dimensional heroes in to help us. Right. 5 different versions of Spider-Man.
Yeah, there are those. Show inspiring heroism and integrity in front of onlookers. I think you did that. I mean, we had all these heroes. Does everybody seem to agree with that?
We did a whole cosmic judgment thing.
We did do a cosmic judgment thing. How about your ideals? That's always a tricksy one.
The good of the many and the guilty don't get to hide. I don't know. I could see an argument for the good of the many, but you know, now here that we're working with like Firebrand, and we're opening it up to people that have done wrong and should be punished. I don't know how that stands up against the other.
Okay.
Maybe given the fact that most of us are probably going to die in this
given
fight.
That.
I'm sorry, Brian. I talked over you.
Okay. I'd maybe give you good of the many, given that we know that taking people back from other dimensions is possibly going to bring in these space demon things, and you went for it anyway because toppling the Big H was important. But yeah, I mean, at best that kind of evens them out, maybe.
Sound good?
Sure.
Okay. All right then. So I'll give mine. I think that with Stargazer having gone out and kind of rising up as this almost messianic figure, and the realization that the humanity has been kind of used and abused here, I think we see Bleed sitting at wherever our headquarters are, and I imagine it's the world looked probably rough. I imagine that Safeguard's people are trying to, you know, the forces he keeps here, trying to keep everyone oppressed until he can head off on his big grand plan. And we see Bleed sitting there as she's opening herself up and broadening her scope as she has in front of her these texts that have come from Ghost Script, from the archivist, and opening up herself to try and encompass everybody in humanity to have the scales lifted from their eyes, to see how we've been treated and how this has destroyed us all, how we've been used by this creature. So the hope is to feel out to every person here. Patrick, you want to be my villain? Not you. You're always my villain.
Sure.
All right.
So what are you trying to do? You're reaching out to people?
I'm trying to let every person on the planet know what has happened. What Safeguard has done, that we have these things that were really supposed to be our heritage and our birthright that he has obliterated, and stir up that same emotion, the same as I have, that we will fight. We will stand against Safeguard, to rise all the population up against Safeguard.
I'm not sure. Does anybody
All
else
right.
have a clearer idea?
Ryan, do you have a villainous thing?
I think maybe their Safeguard is sort of onto this, exposing his background tactics thing. And so some of his security forces / supervillains / whatever are, well, actually probably more security forces, are putting out things through official channels like on the news and stuff saying, that there are alarming trends of supervillains trying to implant strange suggestions and conspiracy theories in people's minds, but do not listen to them. Safeguard will protect you, and that kind of stuff. Just trying to discredit you before you can get to people.
Gotcha. Okay, so do I have a roll, I'm guessing?
I assume so, unless you want to just cave and go home.
No, I won't do that. Oh, but I rolled a 2. So I think I'll use my inspiration here. And I'm going to bring someone in. Someone I think will help with all of this. I hate to keep going back to old Firebrand, but he certainly can help me.
We're making an enclosed story at this point.
Yeah. So I think as I'm saying this, for the first time, we actually have Firebrand physically present there. All the other times we've had him in our head and just sort of stepping out of the shadows, sitting down in front of Bleed. And this is this older man. He's in his 60s, and he reaches out and he takes Bleed's hands. Don't worry. I'm here with you. And she sort of opens her eyes for a minute and sees him for the first time and takes courage and will attempt to redouble her efforts. She did not manage to double her efforts. So I guess I'm going to go with might. As she reaches down into that lowest core of herself and filled with the rage of having been used by this thing, not even a creature. A power grows between them, the flame and the rainbow twirling around in grand arcs above. And gets a 5. Between the two of them, their message of resistance grows across the planet, and as one, humanity stands up. The security forces lay down their arms, realizing how they've been used. And our planet casts off, perhaps too late, the shackles of the Big H, because the Big H still, like some sort of terrible storm, is above us with horrible destruction, and we're in awful shape. So I'll hit my questions real quick. I have already lost an inspiration and might. That. All right. So my questions. Did I strike a blow against the villains of the Big H's government? Think I did that? I think so. I get one of those. Showing how inspiring heroism and integrity in front of onlookers. Kind of tried to reach out to the whole world. That sound good?
Yeah, I think everybody is enough onlookers.
All right. And did I betray an ideal or stand up for an ideal?
Oh, you tried to unite all of humanity.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I stood up for one of my ideals. All right, cool. So we now are going to the end game. We no longer will be rolling dice. What we have now are our tokens. What we'll do is each of us is going to, we'll start with the person with the least might tokens, frame a scene in which your character is doing something towards bringing down the Big H and or their government. You spend however many dice or how many tokens you have, and then we look at the outcome. You start with just your might tokens to spend, but everybody has a chance to secretly put inspiration, that includes you, inspiration tokens, and add them into the effect. Finally, you can add to this pool by tokens by spending righteousness tokens. This represents you betraying your ideals to succeed. So you'd have to look at your ideals and see how you betrayed them to succeed in this. So how I figure we'll do this is, first off, we need to add up what we've got. And I have 3 might tokens. How about everybody else?
I also have 3.
I've got 3 as well.
I am not mighty. I only have 2.
All right.
Weakling.
So you'll be starting first. And you will have 2 might tokens to try and get your success on that chart. And you'll see on the chart 2. And you're having to bid for each thing. Your personal outcome and your impact on the Big H and their forces.
Okay.
And then we're trying to look at the end after all of our spending, how many righteousness tokens we have left as a group.
That is correct.
So how many righteousness tokens do we have?
I have 1.
Click on a different box so we can see yours.
Oh, sorry. Boy, Chris, you've got a lot of righteousness.
Like I said, I have nothing but my moral purity.
So we have 6 total. So we could get to less than 4, which would be a total betrayal of all of our ideals in the end. We could get to more than 4, which is a compromise, mostly failing to live up to our ideals. But we couldn't get to anything better than that.
Why not?
You have
Because
to have twice as many players worth of righteousness tokens to get a better result.
we have 4 players, so we would need 8 righteousness tokens to get a compromise government afterwards. And we would need 12 to get a utopia afterwards.
Which may answer getting a bunch of tokens. But, so, if we don't spend any, or not many, it looks like we can have an imperfect world.
Yes. We could spend up to 2 and still have a crappy government left over.
But it's better than Safeguard, I suppose. We could also completely be destroyed by Safeguard, I think.
Yeah, and then you determine how good the government is. So you could all die and do nothing at all, and then it's a wonderful utopia, and you were wrong all along.
All right. So, as we understand it, you're going to spend your might to do your personal and your impact on the Big H and their forces. You have to at least spend 1 to do anything higher than a... if you want to spend 2 or more on impact. So, in other words, you can't take 0 and then put all of them into impact. You have to at least put one in to try and put more into the impact there. So, and we can help with inspiration. Those of us that have inspiration.
Yeah, and I don't have to declare how I'm spending any of them until we've determined how big the pool is actually going to be. So, yeah.
That's nice.
So, how am I trying to take down the Big H and or their government? I think now that we've got this conglomeration of heroes from across realities and stuff, I am portaling a bunch of us directly onto the ship, which is Big H's sort of center operations. I mean, Big H goes wherever Big H wants. I mean, Safeguard goes wherever Safeguard wants. But we know that this is important to them at least. And we're just gonna fuck this thing up.
Fantastic.
Try to release all the heroes in cryo, or at least crash this thing or something, so he doesn't have them.
All right. For the rest of us, go ahead and put in, if any, of your inspiration you want to loan to or give to Egress. And don't hit enter. Just put it in. And then once we've all got ours in, put a thumbs up. I've got mine in.
So where are we putting it in?
Just in the chat here on the side.
Oh, okay.
And then we'll hit enter at the same time.
So we do this now and for each of us?
For each of us, including yourself.
And then is it will it be Ryan who decides how they get spent?
Yes.
Yeah, I allocate them however I want, but you can give me anywhere from 0 to all you have, and any you don't spend at the end of this is gone forever.
I see. All right, I'll go. I've got something lined up.
All right, we ready? Patrick? All right.
Oh wait, we have to type in. We have to designate what type it is, right?
No, it's only inspiration. That's the only one you could spend to give to someone.
Okay.
Including yourself. All right, typed in. Everybody hit enter. Okay. All right. So you got 5, right? Looks like.
Oh my goodness. I was expecting to get a bunch of zeros, but everybody has given their inspiration off quickly.
That's what you get for going first.
Yeah.
That gives me a total of 1, 2, 3, 5 to allocate. So we managed to deal a significant blow, but I am either killed or scarred mentally or physically in the doing. I think as the ship comes down, I am still on it and cannot portal off in time. Or I'm trying to get everybody else off, and I'm still behind, trying to hold open portal to the last moment.
Gotcha. So as the ship's cracking up, Egress. All right. We're all tied. Any of y'all want to go first, or you want me?
I'll go. Yeah, if somebody wants to, I'll go next.
Alrighty.
Because my basic plan is for Stargazer. Like basically, we're raiding the big ship in the sky at this point in space.
Yeah, and we can take on Big H directly as well.
Oh, right. Now we have portal, so we don't. Yeah, I forgot we have Egress's portal ability, so we don't have to worry about like. Oh, yeah. Well,
yeah,
I mean,
if you want to frame your scene before I die exploding the ship.
Okay. Oh, so you've already exploded the ship. Oh, okay. That's a good point. Yeah. So, of course, the Big H makes it out, and I think at this point, I think I kind of see I see Stargazer kind of like leading the army, especially now that I've basically turned this into a religious crusade in a way. Basically, not in a way. That's basically what I did. So I think he's that kind of like basically leading. Unless anyone else objects, I think he's leading the big army of all these super beings. All the villains and all the beings we've brought from lost timelines. Kind of like leading them into like the big final brawl against the Big H or against Safeguard. I imagine the fight probably starts. It probably starts in orbit, and then I guess I envision trying to bring it down to like some remote corner of like the most remote place on Earth. I would go for the Australian desert. Maybe I don't know. Maybe we can finagle some way into that land being brought back. Oh, I think maybe the grand scheme is maybe if oh well we don't have egress anymore, so well anyway we'll just try to bring it down to earth in some remote patch of the place.
Siberia.
Maybe Siberia. Let's do that. Sure. And volunteered by our comrades in the Soviet Union. And yeah, basically, Stargaze is just basically leading the brawl, trying to do as much damage as it can. And while we're keeping Safeguard busy, the remaining heroes can do what they're going to do in order to seal the fate of our villain here. So there it is. Oh, it's 11 o'clock. All right, so let's roll. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. Well, no roll. You have.
Oh, right, no roll. That's
you have
right.
Your 3 might.
I've got 3 might, and I've spent that on both categories. And then you all are gonna. Oh, including me.
Including you can add inspiration if we have any we wish to add.
Okay.
So, Ryan, you are out. So Patrick and I put in the chat what you have to give. You ready?
Not yet. I'm just looking up to see what because I kind of have an idea for what I want. Okay, I think. Yeah, I'll go and do it. Okay.
All right.
1,
2, 3.
Okay, that's fine. That's good. All right, so I've got 3 points to play with. I need to deal a significant blow. Here's the thing. This personal outcome, 0 is you slink away to obscurity unharmed. You know what?
Now, keep in mind, you cannot spend more than 2 in impact if you don't spend 1 in your personal outcome.
Yeah, and you're talking about, well, I don't have any righteous points, so I can't spend anything. 3 is what I get. Oh, I see. So I can only spend. So if I have to spend that 2 on impact, and then I have to spend 1 on personal outcome. I see. All right. Well, actually, that works better. That's the personal outcome I wanted. I would have liked a bigger impact, but okay. So I'll spend 2 on impact and 1 on personal outcome, crushing defeat, terrible consequences first. Who's someone I care about? Yeah, unfortunately, I think this is. I hate to. I always blanch when it's the love interest that follows in the course of the battle. But she's earned it. I mean, this isn't her falling for my thing. This is her fight, and she's already stood up for her heroic thing when she fended off Temporals and all that stuff. So yeah, maybe at this point, maybe War Devil actually is the one leading. She's the one who ends up leading the ground forces, and yeah, she certainly ends up getting killed by Safeguard. And weak, possibly symbolic blow. Well, I guess my original plan was just to distract him, so maybe that's how the victory is. I just which damage I do or do not do. In fact, probably not much yet. Okay. At least distracted him for the rest of the heroes. So there it is.
Excellent. All right, Patrick, do you want to go or me?
Either way, I can go.
Go ahead.
So I think what I'm doing is I'm at some giant satellite arrays that I have all of this broadcasting power behind me, and I'm sitting in the middle of it, and I beam my digital presence up into the computer of this ship, which he's programmed with all of his predictive analytics and all of this stuff from his own powers. So there's obviously this giant digital avatar of Safeguard here in the computer, stopping anybody from interfering with the automatic processes he's put in place to draw comets and stuff in towards the Earth. And even if we beat Safeguard, this ship is still gonna do his work for him. And so I am doing, again, Roman Centurion helmet and sword digital avatar battle with this giant construct of Safeguard.
Excellent. All right. So to stop digital Safeguard, you have your might, which is 3. And Michael, do you have any inspiration yet? You have 1. I have 1. So we can add along with Patrick. Put it in the chat,
3,
Patrick.
2, 1, go. 9. Got 2. 5.
Do you wish to betray any of your?
I do. I think in all of this, I think I get access to this whole array of satellites and stuff that are boosting my power and giving me the strength to do this by agreeing to some terms of some friends of Firebrand who would like to enter the new world with some data about them conveniently lost in the shuffle and enter society as brand new and unsullied citizens.
Excellent.
And so I'm letting the guilty go hidden and unpunished.
It takes you up to 6, right?
Yeah. So I am, which is what I wanted to get to, doing a major blow, and you're either killed or scarred mentally or physically. And so I think we have the classic superhero setup of all of this strain beaming my digital presence out into orbit. This whole battle, channeling all of this was too much for me, and now my mind, my consciousness is separated in this digital ghost form while my body wastes away in a coma in some hospital somewhere.
Excellent. Oh, that's fantastic. And of course, Safeguard's digital presence, his ghost form, just you've zanked it, right?
Oh yeah. Sorry, there was giant climactic battle, and I sorted him what good, and he explodes into like screaming little faces and pixels flying off in a great 3D shot that'll look really good in the video game.
Oh, awesome! All right, so it's me for the finale, I suppose. As we have Safeguard, he's physical formed on the ground, and the armies of the superheroes fighting against him, and he's jumping around through time, and he's just laying waste to them, but they're still holding it back. His digital presence up in the ship and in the internet webs is now dispersed. The ship itself comes crashing down, blown up. We've lost poor Egress. As he's doing this, and he's having to use more and more of this this temporal power to keep himself against all of these things, to keep the advantage against all of these superheroes and supervillains. And that's when I think Bleed reaches out to that big, enormous time spirit paradox, to Tempro, and reaches out saying, Temporis, this is the one who has done these disruptions. This is the one who has tangled your skein. This is the one who should be punished. And reach out to try and bring him to take Safeguard for the punishment he deserves. I have 3 might, 1 inspiration, and 1 righteousness. Anybody with inspiration left? Feel free to help me out. And I'm putting mine in the chat. Ready? 1, 2, 3. All right. So I got my 5. And I think... yeah, I think I'm going to betray my belief that that we're all supposed to be one, that we're all one big unit, and in fact, we're all individuals who have to take personal responsibility for fending off this and not being fooled and being our own people. And there will be evil. There must be evil the same as good. And so with my 6, I am going to strike a major blow. And as I'm spreading myself out towards Temporus.
Yep,
Temporus. As I spread my mind out to him, it is far too fast for me to understand. But as he reaches down, and we see Safeguard, no, and he's shifting forms constantly as this time vortex swirls around him, and he is whipped away. My mind is shattered across all of time and space, and Bleed drops to the ground. And so we have the final bit. First off, how much righteousness did we, or how much impact did we do total?
We busted it. We did 14 impact, which 12 was what we needed for the top tier.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, well, I lost count. I didn't think it was that high. Awesome.
Because both of you did 3, right? And then both of us did 4.
I thought I only did 2.
Oh, did you?
He did only do 2.
I'm sorry?
Okay. So 13, but that still busts the 12.
So the people rise up to overthrow the Big
Awesome.
H, a bloodless Kulu, and the Big H surrenders or flees. I kind of like him being hauled off into time, but
I do too. I think that's
okay.
It surrenders to portals.
Yeah, I think that's better than mine.
all right. And then
So yeah, Temporus shows up to take him off to judgment and imprisonment, and we'll definitely never hear from him again.
Never. And our total righteousness, I believe we have 4 left.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm the only one who retained righteousness.
You are.
A little bit, yeah.
But that means we have a compromise, mostly failing to live up to its ideals, to the ideals.
Well, I think we can write off intergalactic community pretty much.
We are not a good replacement for the Big H.
We're the bad neighbors.
I mean, unless you prioritize Earth over the rest of the galaxy, then maybe we are, but maybe not.
Our planet's not going to blow up. I mean, it's not doing great since all of its major resources are floating around it now.
We'll strip that ship out in Siberia. Well, gang, that was the Big H.
That was a great play. Yeah. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I thought it was neat. We've run late.
Gosh, we could have done so much better as heroes.
I don't want to do a roses and thorns, but if people have just like a very bare moment or two, to maybe say what you thought of the system, what you thought of the game, and did you have fun? It sounds like we did have fun, but just a quick little comment you might have about the game that we just played. Michael, would you like to start us off?
Yeah, I feel I enjoyed it a lot. I'd play it again. My immediate impression is I think the one criticism I have is that I'm not seeing a lot of motivation to spend righteous points. It almost seems like it's going to be like a given that everyone's going to save righteous points for the regime result, especially since it's so high to get a really good one. But otherwise, other than that, I'm not even sure that it'll be worth correcting. But I really enjoyed this, and I definitely play it again.
Awesome, Patrick. Comments after playing?
It was neat. It was definitely really fun. It was cool to constantly be encouraged to like, oh no, dude, take it darker. Like the game is definitely sitting in the background, like, sure, no, go that far, go further, it's fine. So it's a really neat story to explore. And as far as the mechanic of it goes, like I think it very effectively leads you down that certain path. You know, I always have troubles with fully improv GM-less games that are like, make a scene, go. But the way that you have this like slow downward spiral of these scenes helps to guide you in a path of like, I really dug some of the continuity and consistency that we were coming up with between these different scenes as we would slowly flesh out this new era of the story and what's going on. People really collaborated off each other's ideas well.
Awesome. I agree. Ryan, comments for the game?
Yeah, I mean, sort of repeating my earlier one, that you have to do a lot of deciphering to figure out how to actually start the game, but once it gets going, it seems to work fairly well. And like Patrick was saying, it really charts a good kind of tight spiral, because at the end it felt very quick and desperate because we knew it was going, and it's obvious that the stakes are, it's really hard to achieve a good ending, especially a good ending where you're not accidentally the villain all along. And just looking at the righteousness points, I was going, I don't know how we would possibly earn that many points in one game. I mean, I'm sure it could be done, but we'd have to be hitting our beliefs, like both of them, every scene basically, to collect that many. Where
yeah, to get that utopia, I think it's set up to where everybody has to hit the righteousness every scene they have and never spend any of them.
Yeah, where the whole thing is that, no, you're not going to make a perfect utopia. You just get to pick what degree of shit you want to be left over with. And yeah, it was neat.
I thought it was neat too. It had a learning curve in that, you know, it's a short game, but there's a lot in it, and it's, you know, it's charty and things like that. So it took me a while to try and explain it well. But I felt like after we came back this time, knowing it a bit, we really did a pretty good job of it. It felt like, you know, we were starting to grok what the game was. I think if we played it again, we would come into it in those early scenes grokking what's going on and feeling like, you know, we were more confident in how to frame them and how they're going to end up working off of each other. Thought that was neat. And, you know, I could see playing it again because I think there's versatility in it as well. I think there's a lot of different stories you could tell with it. I agree about that, the righteousness. I don't know if when two people are in a scene, if they're both supposed to have the chance to pull off tokens. I don't know if that ends up being too many tokens.
I don't think so. I think it's meant to be that hard to get to that utopia.
That makes sense. I mean, it does. And, you know, you feel like you want to spend some of those. There's times when you spend those righteousness points to get something you need.
Yeah. Well, and for some of the scenes, you can't, unless you spend the righteousness point, you can't succeed. So you can't get other points. So you're constantly losing them, which I guess is the theme of the game, but still.
And like, I was sort of surprised, Ryan, when you chose in that scene where you could have spent a righteousness to go in for a reroll, where you're like, no, I'm just going to take the fail. And I think it ended up being like our only, or one of our only actual fails throughout the whole thing. And that was interesting.
Morals. I had to be righteous.
Yeah, it's a nice dive.
Down.
It's a nice dive into a character. And, you know, you're seeing, you know, because we come up with what it is that, you know, what is a good thing that they're taking too far. You know, we're the ones who are deciding what virtue becomes a vice. And that makes for a neat game. I mean, all of us were the reason that, you know, protecting the innocent became bad. We figured out how that worked. That was really cool. And you guys were phenomenal. And Kyle, we missed you. You know, what you brought in And the first session was really, really good as well. It really informed what went on. That Minority Report thing is always creepy, and it informed kind of how awful it is to get underneath someone like Safeguard.
And I really loved Onlooker coming in again at the very end. That was great. That had a wonderful impact.
That was such a good thing. I think, Michael, you came up with that. That was so good. But everybody, y'all leaned way into this, and it seemed I had a lot of fun with it. I really did, and I appreciate y'all playing it. Taking these Codex games out for a ride is, I expect there's going to be hiccups, and I appreciate that y'all were more than happy to go through it with me.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
It was super great.
Yeah, thanks for running.
Super great. More than one way. I couldn't.
Please stop the recording before I make it worse.
Guys, thank you so much. I'm going to end the broadcast here.